好，大家好。那在我身边的这位呢，就是
你现在是讲普通话对不对 ？OK，
对
普通话比较好一点。
好，大家好，在我身边这位呢就是李国贤周立先生。那他呢今天是我们万锦市的竞选候选人。那我们在这里呢问他几个问题。那周立先生，那我在这里面呢，我知道刚看您的时候，觉得您非常有亲和力。那您觉得这一点是不是您制胜的一个关键呢？
不是，我已经出来参军20年了哈，经过2次失败 ，OK，97年跟去年。那个当然是那个政治的经验也比较丰富了 ，OK， 所以现在出来的话比较有充满信心一样。
充满信心。那所以呢，其实我知道您会说国语啊、广东话，还有就是印度语啊、客家话。
客家是我会说是本家阿妹发音 ，OK， 是每天吃饭要讲的。
哦 ，OK， 所以说您这是一定有很多选票，因为有各种不同的人可以支持你，是吧？那其实在这里面呢，我知道就是您可以早晨6点钟去那个火车站去拉选票，而且去挨家挨户的就去找他们哈。您认为这个是不是其他人是做不到，只有您能做得到呢？
我不能够这样讲，我相信其他人做的不是，但是能够出来6点钟去火车站的话是已经不简单了，
对，
因为很辛苦的。OK， 那个所以政治来讲，你看什么时间的安排要改善一点的，本来是8点钟我要开始送我的那个孩子去上学的哈，因为如果去火车站的话，那一天我就不能够去了。OK。
OK， 所以说真的是很紧张这么一件事情哈去做。那其实呢，在这边有一个谣言或者是一个 truth， 就是说有些人说在自由党里边人呢都有偷偷去支持您，您觉得是吗？在自由党里边还有一些人就是在偷偷的支持您。
对，没错，因为他们说，因为这几年来讲那个自由党那个做了很多那个不能够。
不能说的是。
对，好像是你看刚刚那个丑闻的报告出来嘛 ，Goldman 或者出来嘛，现在证明了他们真的做的事情，不是我们讲，以前是我们讲是没有证据，现在是法官一出来是有钱跑到自由党那边去了，这已经证明了 ，OK。
但是确实有人偷偷支持你。
不是，他们是不高兴，因为他们说我们的党。为什么跑到这边？而且他们不相信 Paul Martin 不知这个事情，因为你看民意调查的70%那个选民都不相信那个总理 Paul Martin 不知道这个事情。那个法官说，他没事嘛，是以前的总理做的 ，OK。但是选民来讲，不可能，你是第二号人物财长，那个 Quebec 省是你的最重要的人物，没道理你不知道这个事情 ，OK。所以很多自由党的党员都很敏感，他是好像是帮以前的总理那个 Christian 那个说他们很生气，他全部把责任推到他那个总理，他说他们非常的不高兴，所以偷偷的过来帮我们。
哇，那真是非常棒啊！其实在这里边，您刚刚提到，就是说自由党上台也好，是保守党以后将要上台也好，那就是说会不会说有些人说不管是哪个党上台，之前的时候讲的都非常的好，等到一上台以后呢，所有的诺言就空了。那如果您胜选的话，您的诺言会不会一直这样支持下去？您说话一定会算话吗？
所以我们那个前几天我们放出了一个那个叫做 Accountability Act， 我们当选的话，这个我们一定会做的 ，OK。好像这样臭闻的事情不会发生在我们保守党的那边 ，OK。好像比如说，我们就讲到，如果你身为在国会议员，你离开了以后目前的法律是1年之后你不能够做 lobby， 因为你有影响力嘛，可以做到很多生意嘛。所以我们是增加到5年。那么5年你做一个部长的话，下来台的话要等5年，5年以后就没有什么关系。那你刚刚下来还有关系了，比较容易打沟通做生意嘛所以我们说保守党上台的话，我们会把它关掉，拉到5年。OK， 那5年限制你不能够谈生意。
哇，那看来就是我们真的希望，如果您上台了，这 OK 了的话，那我们这次一定就是不会像以前这样是变成一个 liar 经常有人这样说。那今天在这里边呢，我知道很多人支持您，包括您的亲戚朋友大概300多、400多人。那如果您觉得这一次的您胜选机会有多大呢？
我当然有充满信心，OK。但是我也知道我的对手是一个很强的那个对手，他是以前做过国防部长税务部长而且做的 National Resource Minister，OK。当然能够打败的是 不容易的事。我知道你这样，可能我时常因为我的小孩子时常问我，他说爸爸，你认为真的你没把他拉下来？我就跟他讲那个，我说你可能没有读过我们中国历代的历史，元朝那么强盛，都会垮下来。OK， 每一个都是越点越点嘛。现在只有点越点这个偷钱的这个，如果还是会险上的话，都没法好讲了。OK， 我相信这一次加拿大的那个选民呢，一定会睁开眼睛。OK。听得清清楚楚 ，OK， 到底是不是时间到了要挣钱？因为每一个政党做了一段的时间的话，你这一定是腐败的。就我们历代的朝代是一样，做久了就会贪污腐败，然后就会给老百姓推翻，就换朝一样，对不对？我相信，对20世纪的那个政坛来讲，就是一模一样的。如果你是腐败的话，有问题的话，一定会选民会把你拉下来。
OK， 那当然是最希望能够胜选，但是呢，如果万一有就是败选了的话，就是没有上来的话，您下次还会不会再参与呢？
当然我永远不会说，我不会出来参选。OK， 现在是第3次了，好像那个安省历史来讲我是第一个华人出来竞选第3次，从来没有过华人出来竞选第3次。OK， 当然我希望这次能够通过。OK， 刚刚你讲的，如果没有通过，会不会考虑到会再竞选？唯一的我可以回答你的话我永远不会放弃。OK， 能够推动我们华人应该得到的那个势力。OK， 人是政治的地位。目前来讲，我们在加拿大强国以来在 Ontario 省60万华侨到目前为止，我们还没有一个华人国会议员。
对。
没有一个，所以这个是一个鼓励来讲，就继续的要努力。OK， 当然我不会放弃。OK， 因为我单身的话，当然就没什么好考虑，马上就说一定会。因为我一个家庭，当然要跟太太坐下来谈一下。OK， 商量一下，对不对？我相信他的太太也不会反对，因为他知道我的志气是很强。OK， 所以希望希望这次能够成功，不要等下一次。OK。
那好，在这里边呢，我们非常感谢周丽在跟我们做这样的采访，而且呢，我也希望他能够为我们中国人 stand up。当然，我也希望我也会成为支持你的一员。
谢谢。
Okay, how are you?
Where's he gonna park? Well, I know that you are a little bit late, but
Well, that's your Toronto traffic grid. Federal government.
Okay.
What's going to happen for this election time? I'm going to ask. Sure.
Peter, this is James, the friend of you.
See you. Thank you for coming out to support Joe. You mean a lot.
All the way to check, but he wanted me.
I think the media is waiting to.
Yeah. Well, because I told them that.
Okay.
That's a good sign.
That means you're flop.
So we're going to do.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
She's from Very nice to see you. We left the hotel actually for the thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't expect to run into this major traffic. It was an accident.
They like to, just make time.
Hi there. Good to see you. Yeah. Well, it's good to be here with you.
You know Yingpo, right?
Yes, I do.
Hi, Peter. Long time no see.
Very nice to see you.
Peter McConnell or Peter McKay?
Well, I'll answer the.
Oh, it's going to be more than that.
Well, I think we're going to be in some very interesting times soon.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We'll get started. Okay, well, thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for being here at this time of day when traffic's the least cooperative. For those who don't know me, my name is Ted Higgins. I happen to be president of the Markham Unionville Conservative Riding Association. And just to give you a little bit of insight into the format we're going to use here, we're probably going to have to condense things a little bit, but we'll try to make sure you have time to do your work. I'm going to introduce our candidate, Joe Lee. Joe is going to make a couple of brief remarks, following which he'll introduce our special guest this evening, Peter MacKay, and after which we'll have a question and answer period so that you'll have the opportunity to direct questions through me to either Joe or Peter. So, having said that, I'm going to call on Joe Lee to come to the microphone and make a few comments.
Why for me? I'm a little bit short, okay? I need to buy a high heel shoe now. Okay? Anyway, good afternoon, media friends, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, all of you, and thank you for attending today's press conference. I am humbled to be given another opportunity by the Conservative Party member of Markham Unionville to be your candidate in the upcoming federal election. Today, I want to start my campaign with a simple question. If you voluntarily resign today, would you be able to receive your severance package entitlement?
No.
As your Conservative candidate, I can assure you that I do not agree with my MP John McCallum, Liberal cultural entitlement, and certainly ordinary, hard-working Canadian like you in this room here will never accept John McCallum's version of entitlement to give $500,000 to David Dingwall volunteer resignation. I am also particularly disturbed with the Liberal government mismanagement of law and order. Despite spending more than $2 billion of taxpayer money in gun registry, today we have more gun-related crime on our street, more grow houses in our neighborhood, but lack of protection for victim rights. I'm also concerned with the worsening delivery of our healthcare system under the Liberal government's massive funding cut in the last 12 years in government. 4 years ago, my own dad died of heart attack while waiting for a hospital bed in the Scarborough General Hospital. This is totally unacceptable. And as hear about recently, the rumor about talk of shutting down the emergency department in the Scarborough General Hospital, which is south of Steele here. If you share my concern about current corrupt Liberal government, ethical behavior of cultural entitlement, street violence, and decline of healthcare services, then I welcome you to join my campaign and help me to defeat and end the 12 years Liberal government of corruption. Thank you. Today, I want to introduce one of my friends, my political mentor, that traveled all the way from Nova Scotia, Peter MacKay. Thank you for coming tonight to attend the press conference at the fundraising for me. Peter have known me for a couple of years, especially when he first ran for leadership race for the old Progressive Conservative Party. And I want to tell you, he's a courage and vision leader that see the need to end the split of the Conservative voter and took the courageous step to have a dialogue with our current leader, Stephen Harper, to make sure we have a united Conservative voice, to make sure that the Liberal will never have a free ride again. And we are pretty sure that Peter will tell you that very, very soon we're going to end the rule of this corrupt Liberal government. By all means, help me to welcome Peter McKay. Thank you.
I'm proud to stand up for Joe Lee and to stand up for Canada and the Conservative Party. We have, as Joe alluded to, an incredible opportunity, and I'd say more than that, an incredible obligation as a national Conservative Party to present Canadians with the type of passionate and principled presentation that we just saw from my friend Joe Lee. I have known Joe a number of years and worked with him closely and become a great admirer of his. Somebody who speaks with great principle and understanding of the issues in his community. Somebody that knows firsthand what the people of Markham Unionville need in government and need through their elected officials. And it's not the type of entitlement and corruption and arrogance that we have seen coming from the Liberal government and coming from the Liberal member, quite frankly, who has become the official spokesperson for corruption in the current Liberal government. The man who is standing up before Canadians every day and trying to make excuses for a Prime Minister who is up to his eyes in the sponsorship program. Let's not believe for a moment this rhetoric around Paul Martin having been exonerated by Judge Gomery. He was exonerated of something he was never accused of, and that was having run the sponsorship program. Nobody ever said he ran the program. What Justice Gomery has said, quite clearly, is that he was guilty of a Liberal conspiracy to defraud taxpayers for over a decade. Was there anyone in the country in a better position to stop the abuse that was going on in that program? As Finance Minister, Vice President of the Treasury Board, Senior Quebec Cabinet Minister, leadership hopeful, Paul Martin knew of the program, applied for money from that program, had every cent of money that went into the sponsorship program and back to the Liberal Party go through the Department of Finance. So he was either willfully blind or he wasn't doing his job. There's no other excuse. You know, Paul Martin would have you believe that he never met Jean Chrétien. He never met him. He doesn't know the man. Canadians don't believe that. And I think that Joe has struck the right chord. Canadians want to change. They want to see a clean, conservative government that reacts to their priorities, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be a more just system when it comes to safe streets and communities. Grow-ops are a huge problem throughout the country. They're being proliferated everywhere. In big cities, small towns, countrysides, drugs have become a huge problem in this country. And yet, our law enforcement community continue to be starved of resources in many areas, including your own. And yet, this government continues to put money into gun registry that doesn't work. And you know why it doesn't work? It's a very simple reason. The Hells Angels won't register their guns. They just won't do it. They're not going to participate. No matter how easy we make it and we put it online and put it in kiosks at the mall, they're just not going to do it. There's a failed premise here that the voluntary participation will not include criminals. They're not going to participate. So we have to get on with what I would describe as recalibrating the priorities of government to match the priorities of Canadians. We have to be a more productive and more prosperous nation. Because if we're a more prosperous nation, we can be a more generous nation. To our own people, we can do more in the global community. We are capable of so much more as a nation. And under honest, principled leadership, we can clean up government and get on with doing the job of governing this country competently, and not putting crass political interests, as we saw in the sponsorship scandal and so many other instances, before the interests of people. So I'm very pleased to be here with Joe Lee, somebody who I know speaks with authority, speaks with a voice of reason and understanding, a man who understands that family is important, employment, lower taxes, issues that matter to business he understands, and wants to ensure that the voice of people in this constituency is heard in Ottawa, not the other way around. Not that Ottawa's voice is brought back to the people of this constituency, but the issues that matter here are voiced on the floor of the House of Commons, are voiced to the people in Ottawa so that they understand that there's a job that has to be done. And if I know one thing about Joe Lee, Joe wants results. He wants to get the job done. He wants to see the quality of life of people of Markham Unionville improve. And he will get that job done when he's elected in the next election. Thank you very much. And
you tell us why your party blocked the bill that will give new money for immigration funding?
The bill was not blocked. There was a motion put forward by the government to bring this legislation forward. The minister, Mr. Valeri, was there. He was being asked some very serious questions about the bill, concerns that were being put forward, very legitimately. That's the job of the opposition, to raise questions about the bill. He refused to answer. He refused to take part in a meaningful dialogue at the committee, which is what everyone would expect a minister to do, is come and answer questions about a bill. And for that reason, the joint opposition members voted down the bill. And they've asked him to come back and present himself in a reasonable fashion and to submit to questions, as all ministers are supposed to do in a democracy. And if and when he does that, then there's every likelihood to expect that the bill will pass.
Can I follow up with that? Yeah. What's your party's platform regarding about immigration funding?
We are very pro-immigration. We always have been. The Conservative Party, the Progressive Conservative Party before it, has always opened the doors to new Canadians. And what we want to ensure is, in fact, that the system is more streamlined, more efficient, and it's safe. We want to make sure that people that are coming to this country are coming to do so for a productive reason, to participate in our economy, to live a life that is consistent with Canadian values and our laws. And our party is very pro-immigration. In fact, I would suggest that we have a party that is more reflective of the face of Canada than any in the Parliament of Canada today. We have more diversity, more youth, and more women per capita than any party sitting in the House of Commons today.
How about the amount of funding?
We are being given are correct, and that's why we asked very legitimate questions of the minister, and we received no answers. So an opposition party is not there to just give a free pass on any bill, whether it be immigration, health, justice, trade. We are there to ask questions and to raise issues that we think are important, and that's what the members of the Conservative Party and other members in opposition were doing at the committee that day. Well, there is an opportunity on Tuesday, the 15th, to bring forward a supply day or an opposition day. Incidentally, that was denied to our party and to all parties for the last 6 weeks, which is a very unusual thing, that the opposition would go 6 weeks without having an opportunity to bring forward a supply day, which is simply the freedom, and it's in the standing orders to put a motion on before the House of Commons for debate. Will it be a non-confidence motion? It's possible. Mr. Harper and our party have indicated clearly that until Jack Layton gives an unequivocal commitment to vote with us, we are not going to put forward a motion of non-confidence. It's going to take a united opposition for a vote of non-confidence to occur. And Mr. Layton and Mr. Martin are still negotiating, as I understand it. And this alliance between the NDP and the Liberals, just as they worked with the Bloc to shut down Parliament in the last session, we're not going to play that game. We saw them do that in the last session in the spring. We are very serious about it. We're prepared to hold this government to account. We feel that Judge Gomery has now given his verdict. We think that Canadians should be given the opportunity to give their verdict. And so the possibility of a supply day motion, a non-confidence motion, is there. It may happen on Tuesday, but it won't happen without a clear commitment from the NDP.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm Joseph from TorontoTV. If the election comes, will your party be ready for to win the election?
Joseph, we're ready. We're ready, willing and able. We were ready last spring to have an election. We felt that there was enough information at that time when we were hearing the testimony of people like Jean Brault, who said under oath before a judge the Liberal Party was stealing Canadians' money. We know that there is still upwards of $40 million missing and unaccounted for. We know that the Liberal Party deliberately set up a kickback scheme that funneled money back into their own party coffers. They ran elections on dirty money. This is unprecedented. This is the worst financial scandal in modern Canadian political history. And the Liberal Party are not going to just convince Canadians to change the channel and pretend it didn't happen. And when they talk about healthcare, and they say we have to deal with Aboriginal issues, and we have to deal with immigration issues, and now is a time not to have an election. Well, of course, that's how they're going to feel. And what were they doing for the last 12 years on all of these issues and others? So I don't believe that Canadians are going to buy into this attempt to distract and to dissuade people that it's not a time for the Canadian people to go to the polls and issue their verdict on what this Liberal government has been up to. So we're ready, and whether it comes on the 15th or another possibility will be when the supplementary estimates are before the House for a vote on the 8th of December. The NDP, the Bloc, will also have occasions to have supply days. So this Liberal government is hanging on the cliff's edge right now, and we'll see how things unfold in the coming days. It was in fact a Conservative Member of Parliament, Inky Mark, that brought forward a bill that I believe the wording was redress. And what Inky was talking about then and what he has talked about since is having a bill that recognizes the historic injustice that occurred with the imposition of that tax. Just as the former Conservative government of Brian Mulroney issued redress for Japanese Canadians who were interned. And there's a similarity there. And I think we also can do more in terms of educating Canadians on what happened during that very shameful time in our country's history. So we need to get past that. There's a healing that has to happen. Redress, I think, is an important part of that. And I was pleased to second Inky's motion when that happened. And I believe it's now sitting in the name of Bev Oda. And I think that you're going to see that happen. I hope that it'll happen. It certainly would happen under a Conservative government.
Well, under that bill, there's no compensation, so that's your party's position as well.
Redress can include compensation. It can include scholarships. It can include imposition of a form of redress when it comes to property that may have been lost. So there's a broad range of ability under redress to address that.
But right now, that bill is just a fund, education fund.
It's a private member's bill. It's not a government bill.
Yes.
It's not a bill that's brought forward by the government. It's brought forward by the opposition.
Yeah, but your party's MPs just recently vote for an amendment that won't give individual apologies to those taxpayers. So is that your party's position as well?
Well, if something happened at a committee that changed it, I'm not aware. But I know what I'm telling you is it came forward from the Conservative Party. It didn't come from the government.
Okay, we have another question here.
So what you were saying earlier is that you can't be sure.
Where there was discussions going on between all of the opposition parties, and clearly Jack Layton was brokering a deal behind closed doors with Paul Martin and the Liberal Party for his add-on budget that Ralph Goodale said wasn't possible. So we're not going to have that happen again. We want a clear commitment from the NDP. Jack could move the motion himself. He could put the motion where his mouth is. And what it will do is it'll clearly signal that they're going to end this hypocrisy of standing up daily in the House, castigating the Liberals for corruption, criticizing them from everything from health care to the environment to so many other issues, calling them down to the lowest, and keeping them in office. That's what's been going on. So, I think that Canadians are seeing through that, and we are simply saying enough is enough. You're either with them, and you're going to keep them in office despite all of these allegations of corruption and everything that we now know that was confirmed by Judge Connolly, or you're going to stop that hypocrisy and allow Canadians to judge them.
So what are the Conservatives doing to try to bring forward or assure a non-confidence vote?
We have a motion that's currently sitting on what's called the order paper. We have a number of motions. One of them would be deemed a confidence motion. But I think, and I'm hopeful, that there may be some clear signal come from Jack Layton, the NDP. We may have discussions in the coming days. There's several days between now and Tuesday. And if that signal comes, then we're off to the races, as they say.
The signal that they'll be on your side and vote with you.
Well, he gave kind of a mixed message yesterday, I thought, here in Toronto. He said he was not prepared to accept this offer that had been made by Ujjal Dosanjh and the Prime Minister on health care. I don't know how he could accept it. There's nobody, as I said earlier, there's nobody more responsible for the state of the sponsorship scandal than Paul Martin. There's also nobody more responsible for the declining state of healthcare than Paul Martin, having cut so much away from the provinces through transfer payment cuts. So, you know, you don't hear Paul Martin talking these days about a democratic deficit, because there's this great big whopping credibility deficit that he's got to deal with first. And whether it's healthcare, justice, corruption in his own party, Mr. Martin doesn't really have a lot to be proud of. So I don't know why Jack Layton would trust him. I don't know why we trust Jack Layton until we see something a little more firm in terms of his commitment.
Well, there's a lot of difference I'm doing. Actually, I have more time to go to meet more people. The last campaign was only 36 days, okay? And you know that it's not an easy task to mount a campaign with a sitting member of parliament, with also a cabinet minister, have name recognition. But what I can assure you, John, is that the whole summer, since my nomination on May 15, I've been going out to meet people. People, you know, were asking me, Joe, are you already in the campaign mode? And as I mentioned, talked to Simon the first time I met you, you know, when I put out my sign last time, I say, hey, you know, Malcolm, you know, this is not the last Joe Lee you're going to see. You're probably going to revisit another campaign with me. So I've been working very hard, and you say different, there's a lot of difference I'm doing. I'm more experienced now and know how to handle tough questions. Wow. I also know more about my opponent now, McCallum. In the last campaign, quite frankly, I sound like a new kid on the block against him, okay? But today, I can tell you, anytime, any place, I am prepared to sit along and debate with him. Especially the question of entitlement, I would like to find out from John McCallum what kind of law that I can receive that entitlement if I resign today.
I've set out a very proud history of our party when it comes to immigration, when it comes in particular to Chinese Canadians. We have done, in my view, a great deal to embrace Chinese people in Canada, and will continue to do so. They helped build this country. They helped build the railroad. They have been among the most entrepreneurial, hard-working people, in my opinion, that we have ever had in Canada. And our party is going to continue, of course, the long-standing tradition of opening the doors and making it easier. And I mean, that's why I think there is a great affinity with our party in the Chinese community. We respect hard work. We think it should be rewarded. We think people should get to keep more of their own money if they work hard. We think that education and recognizing skills, recognizing trades is an important part of that plan for a greater, more productive nation. So we certainly are proud of the history, but more importantly, we want to see that type of tradition continue. So I thank you very much for that question. And if we got caught, we'd have some shame. We wouldn't try to stand up and pretend it didn't happen and deny it. There is, beyond this culture of entitlement and culture of corruption, there's a sense in the country that there has to be a cleanup of government. That's why Stephen Harper has introduced the Federal Accountability Act that talks about ways that put in place more transparency, more safeguards, greater sense of merit when we're putting people in positions like Auditor General, like our Ethics Counselor, like our Elections Registrar. I mean, these are positions that have to be arm's length and credible. And there has to be a sense that Parliament itself is going to be accountable to the people of Canada. And you can't expect a Liberal Party that was caught red-handed doing this to clean up their own act. You know, Paul Martin suggests somehow that he should be given credit for having put the Gomery Commission in place. He had to. He got caught. He didn't just do this voluntarily. He got caught by the Auditor General. It was exposed. And so I would also suggest he did it at a time just before the election so he could put that issue to one side and not have to talk about it. So Judge Gomery has rendered his decision. The Liberal Party has been found guilty. It's not just the media or the opposition saying it. It's there. It's factual. It came out under sworn testimony under oath before a judge. And I don't believe that Canadians want to live in a country that rewards theft. If the Liberal Party are re-elected, we are saying it's okay to steal money and lie.
今天是11月8号呢，我们今天参加的是周丽的筹款晚会，谢谢大家。